My unit of work created with my group was called What in the World Is That Made Of? It was based on Material World for Stage 3, focusing on the characteristics of materials and why they're important when designing and producing. The aim of the unit was that students would understand the characteristics and properties of material. They would understand that these properties and characteristics determine the use of materials. They would have the opportunity to explore different materials and put the knowledge gained into practice by designing a school building. And then they would also be able to justify their design and explain why they selected certain materials. So in terms of the 5 E's approach, the engage part of the unit was based around different stations around the room that would have different materials for students to explore. The explore part is the part I will be demonstrating, which is determining the strength of materials and investigating if any damage was caused to these materials once force had been applied to them. Explain was students creating a 30-second video to share the results of testing the strength of materials. They would record what would be most suitable for their school design and explain the reasoning behind their choice. Elaborate was students designing their school, and they would also plan out their prototype. Evaluate is students creating a catchphrase to represent their design. They have the opportunity to pitch their design to their class and to the principal, and they would give feedback to each other based on 2 stars and a wish. So the hands-on activity is called Put a Dent in It. The purpose is to have students engage with materials and explore new ideas surrounding their use, and also get to know the properties of materials. So the teacher will gather different materials such as wood, plastic, concrete, paper, cardboard, ceramic tile, and the teacher will drop a 1 kilo weight from arm's length onto the materials. Before the experiment, students will predict what they think might happen to the materials. As a class, they'll investigate the materials to see if any damage or denting has been caused from the force applied, and discuss their results. This will assist them to determine what materials they'll use in their design. And students will have the opportunity to go around and pick up all of the materials and feel what has happened, feel if there's any dents or damage caused. So just before I show you the activity demonstration, if you are going to use this activity as the teacher demonstrating, just make sure you wear enclosed shoes because it could be dangerous if you drop the weight onto your feet. Today I will be demonstrating an activity appropriate for a stage 3 audience. The activity is based on determining the purpose of materials based on their properties. So students will be testing a range of different materials in order to find out which materials will be the strongest so that they can use them in their design process of designing a school. So I will be dropping a weight from arm's length onto these materials, and then we will be looking at the results. The materials that I have to test are paper, cardboard, a ceramic tile, a piece of wood, and a piece of plastic in the form of a bucket lid. I'll be dropping a weight of approximately 1 kilo onto the materials. I've made my weight today out of some tins of food, which I did weigh, and they do equal about a kilo. I just didn't have the appropriate weight, but in a school setting you probably would have those little weights that they use for maths and things like that, so you could find probably one of the metal 1 kilo weights. Let's get started. Before performing this experiment, it would be very useful to ask students to make some predictions beforehand about what material they think might be the strongest material. You could even do a tally, ask each student which one they think, tally it up on the board so that at the end of the lesson that they can compare what their original ideas were. So let's start with the piece of wood. So I'm just going to take the piece of wood and the weight. Keeping it at arm's length. So we can see, might be a little bit hard to see, but the weight has actually put a dent in the piece of wood. So that would be something that you could just mention to the students, but I think it would be better to actually let them examine all the materials after you've performed the experiment so that they can come to their own conclusions about which material they think is the strongest. Now we'll go with the ceramic tile. So the tile doesn't seem to have any visible damage, but yeah, again, you could mention internally there could be some weakness now because there has been some force applied. Let's go with cardboard now. So the cardboard has been visibly damaged by the weight. So again, something that you could point out. And finally, we'll try the plastic. So there was some slight scratching on the external surface. Finally, we'll do the paper. So the paper does have quite visible damage on the outside. It's still in one piece though. So after performing this experiment with the class, it would be good to talk about the results, so what you've noticed, just to guide them in the right direction. But I think if you just leave out all of the materials and let students pick them up, have a look, test if they still feel strong, that would be more useful because then they can come to their own conclusions about what they think. And then at the end of the activity, I would do like a think, pair, share activity where you can talk about how your ideas have changed from the beginning of the lesson, and why you think they might have changed, and why you think some of the materials have been damaged or not been damaged, and which materials they would consider to use for their design, just to think about it. And then the next lesson following that will be when they actually get to put that design in place. It would also be, better to leave the final results part to be student-led. So let them come to their own decision about which material is the strongest. And yeah, that's all. Okay, so why I chose this activity was based around how it fits with a constructivist approach. So students will construct their own meaning. So even though the teacher is the one performing the demonstration, students still have the opportunity to make their own decision about the results and come to their own conclusions. They learn through social interaction. So through discussing with their peers, they can come to conclusions and resolve conflicting ideas. They're building on prior knowledge, so they're extending on what they've already learned throughout the unit. And it fits in with the explore part of the 5Es approach. So the outcome addressed is Material World ST37MWT. They're also doing some design and production when they're thinking about their school design and developing their design for that. Working scientifically through the scientific investigations and collecting the data from that investigation. And they also question and predict through teacher questioning and student predictions. They analyze data through the results of the experiment, and they plan through their design prototype. And they also use producing and implementing through their prototype design and justified decisions. So for safety, the teacher performs this demonstration and makes sure that the students watch from a safe distance. And also it's important to consider materials that are on the safer side. So if you were to use glass, that would be unsafe because it could shatter and cause further injury. So for assessment, formative assessment takes place during the activity through questioning, comparing the students' initial thoughts and prediction to the final results. So that's pre and post assessment. And discussion of the results also allows the teacher to assess students' understanding of the concepts shown.